second challenge, you'll remember, was a story by a guy named Ken Riedel, who was a dear friend of mine, and it is the fighting like a godly man for God's power. Being a race car driver, you know what it's like when you can have the slickest looking car, the fastest looking tires, the most awesome looking raceway, but when you lose power out of that engine, you're done. You know what that's like.
I do.
And the same thing happens in my personal life. When I am living outside of God's power, I put myself in a situation like a racetrack to be run into. I put myself in a situation that is very deadly, possibly. And that's the story that we share in this conference about a dear friend of mine who understood somewhat of what it meant to live in the power of Christ, but he stepped out of it on purpose. And the story we tell of how his life was literally almost lost, and how God redeemed him and redeemed his marriage and redeemed the relationship with his kids is miraculous. Fighting like a godly man is intentionally putting my efforts into placing my life in a place that God would guide and protect and empower me. And that is the difference between a man who is intentionally fighting for this and a man who just says, hey, let's just see how it goes. You know, I'll go to church and I'll read the Bible once in a while and I'll try to be an honest businessman and all. But there's a vast difference between living this way and living like a man who is empowered by the Holy Spirit. This transformational power that not only blesses and anoints my life and my work and my ministry and my friendships and all, but gives me strength against temptation, gives me strength to overcome challenging circumstances in our life. That alone, this one session is so powerful because we not only listen to a testimony from this gentleman, but then we call him on the phone when the testimony is over. He's a real life person. He's living in Cheyenne, Wyoming today. He's lost his teaching career because of his decisions, but God continues to empower this guy and his life and his story because he is fighting for it. And that's the difference between just letting life happen and truly pouring energy into living as a man empowered by Christ. Have you had that same experience of any kind?
Well, yes, I have. Not to the degree that he has, and his story was so powerful when you got him on the phone, shared that story, because now he's a truck driver, lucky to be a truck driver, and the consequences he had from poor choices were significant. And now the turnaround that you just mentioned, that brought a comfort level to the people that were there, because they're saying,
I can identify.
I can identify, I can understand it, and everybody's got a past. Whether you want to have it exposed like his was, but everybody's got a past.
Yeah.
And you're right. And that added to the level of those people who were there saying, you know, if he can do it, I can do it.
I got a chance.
I got a chance. I can make it happen.
Yeah. Well, it's a blessing. Ken Riedel is the guy's name. He's from Cheyenne, Wyoming, and I continually stay in contact with him before we share his testimony, and I'm asking him, is this still your story? Has your story changed in any way, in a way that would compromise the story I'm about to present to these men? And I'm blessed to tell you, he has progressed incredibly since those days. And that's probably been 10 years ago.